Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. BMad Method, Episode 9 of 15. You do not just tell an AI to build an application. If you ask a language model to implement an entire product feature or an epic at once, you will get half-baked logic, missing files, and a tangled mess of code. To get production-grade output from AI, you have to enforce the exact same discipline you expect from a high-performing human engineering team. Today, we look at the build cycle and sprint tracking, which is the mechanical, disciplined loop of executing Phase 4 implementation. The biggest mistake developers make with AI tools is asking for too much at once. The build cycle relies entirely on strict one-story-at-a-time execution. You track state, you pick up a single story, you execute it, you validate it, and you update your state. This process requires distinct personas handling specific parts of the pipeline, ensuring no context is lost and no scope is bloated. The cycle begins with sprint planning. You run the BMad sprint planning prompt, which generates a file called sprint status YAML. This file is your absolute source of truth. It explicitly lists every story in your current sprint and marks its status as pending, in progress, or done. This document keeps the AI grounded. It prevents the model from hallucinating progress or forgetting dependencies because the AI must constantly read this file to understand the current state of the project. Once your sprint is planned, you start the execution loop. First, you engage the Scrum Master persona, Bob, using the BMad create story prompt. You instruct Bob to look at the sprint status YAML file and pick up the top pending item. Bob does not write any application code. Instead, he generates a highly focused Markdown file dedicated exclusively to that single user story. This document outlines the specific acceptance criteria, technical constraints, and test scenarios required to complete the task. Next, you hand that isolated story file over to the developer persona, Amelia. You use the BMad dev story prompt to initiate this step. Amelia reads the story file, analyzes the current codebase, and implements the logic. Because her context is artificially narrowed to just Bob's instructions and the relevant application files, she will not accidentally rewrite unrelated modules or drift outside the scope of the immediate task. After Amelia writes the code, the story is not yet done. You invoke the BMad code review prompt. This acts as an automated quality gate. The review process checks Amelia's code against the strict acceptance criteria defined in Bob's story file. It surfaces missing edge cases, logic flaws, or formatting inconsistencies. You fix any issues found during this review. Only when the code passes do you update the sprint status YAML, manually changing the story from in progress to completed. Then you loop back to Bob to pull the next pending item. Here is the key insight. The power of this loop is not in the code generation itself, but in the strict separation of concerns that forces the AI to plan, execute, and review as distinct, isolated steps. That is all for this one. Thanks for listening and keep building.